Then you flip on the Big 12 this weekend, and I don't know how the Big 12 gets 2 teams in. And I know that it's been a fait accompli for the ACC, that the ACC really has no path but to get 1 team into the college football playoff. But now that it seems painfully obvious that you are in a position now where you're looking at, if Boise State can run the table and win the Mountain West Championship, you're looking at Boise State getting a bye week. You're looking at Boise State being one of the 4 top-ranked conferences in college football, conference champions in college football, mainly because BYU did not handle their business again. And you can only live this way for so long. And we've talked about this with Aaron Roderick and the BYU offense for how many weeks now, that poor play calling and bad game planning really hurts BYU's offense. And now it's no longer a fluke that you have wide receivers dropping passes that hit them in the hands. Now it's no longer a fluke that you refuse to run the football, even though you've been dominating and you were getting away with it. Now your lack of quality schematics and play calling really hurt you if you're BYU. And at some point, I think you have to point the blame right at Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator for BYU. Why you did not run the football in the red zone at the end of the half. It does not excuse just an abysmal throw from Jake Retzloff for that interception in the end zone, which is absolutely inexcusable. You cannot throw an interception in the red zone, and you certainly can't throw an interception in the end zone. To miss that throw, inexcusable. Why did you not run the football? You were gashing Kansas. Kansas's weakness is stopping the run, yet you threw and it was intercepted. And I just don't understand what the game plan was. I truly do not. You were dominating on the ground. And yet in the second half, it's like you forgot that you had a run game. In critical situations, you forgot you had a run game. And this idea that you were somehow, some way going to get away with running that last throw where Kansas makes the stop. You ran the route 1.5 yards short. That's poor coaching. That is not being ready for a big moment. And you saw this coming for weeks and weeks at a time. The bounces kept going BYU's way. Against Kansas, they did not. The calls did not go BYU's way. The adversity came to BYU, and BYU's offense was not ready to handle it. And you get off the field, and this is a thing that is so shocking. You get off the field in a critical moment, and then you have a punt come down and hit your punt coverage team in the helmet on the only play that matters in the game for you to lose the game, where Kansas goes down, and I say goes down, walks into the end zone. It's remarkable to me how when BYU loses this game, all of these issues that we've been talking about all year long, all of a sudden are big deals. I'm telling you, the details are absolutely what wins and loses you games. And you can look at Colorado as well, because we've been talking about this with Colorado all year. They're more talented. They pay attention to the details, the little things that have been killing teams like Utah and BYU, the lack of special teams play, the lack of punt return coverage, kick return coverage. Those things are not happening against Colorado. They're happening for Colorado. And Jake, I think this was absolutely a win for Kansas. And I mean, no disrespect to the Kansas Jayhawks. They won the game. But BYU absolutely got exposed in this football game.
Absolutely. And I think that the lack of execution piece, the preparedness piece, I mean, those are things that should be happening for an undefeated team like clockwork, right? Like you should be during the week being, putting together a game plan, being prepared, being ready to execute every single week. And at some point for any football team who's undefeated, who's never been where they are like BYU is, those moments, if you will, come back to get you. And I felt like watching this game, that's exactly what happened. You came into this game, you felt like you were a better football team. And I'm not saying you took them lightly in the first half, but you didn't come out in the first half and like put them away. You didn't go to the half, obviously, feeling great about yourself. And yeah, whether it was the interception, play calling, route running, any of it, it just wasn't good enough. And I think this is where I sit here and say, like, yes, BYU can still go out and win a Big 12 championship, but the reality of the situation is this one hurts a little more because I'm, as a BYU observer and certainly watching the reaction by BYU fans, like, it's clear that the expectation was obviously to go undefeated, and you feel like you lost the game not because of what Kansas did, but because of what you did, and that's the hard part. And I think it's a classic scenario in football. Like how many times are we going to talk about him at the college level or the NFL level? Somebody cutting a route off 2 yards too short, and you don't get the first down, and it ends your game. How many times are we going to talk about the fact that football teams, go away from the run, but then in addition to that, throw it to somebody on a fade route to the right corner of the end zone who you shouldn't be throwing the football to, let alone making that bad of a pass? Like, why are we going to someone in the red zone if we're going to throw it who's not named Darius Lassiter, who's not named any of your guys, Chase Roberts, whoever you want to point to? That's what I didn't understand. Like, yes, the throw was terrible, and there's just no way you can put the ball there. But the play call to me is the worst part, because again, I always say on the show, from all this season, I've been saying it. The play callers who put their dudes in positions to be successful typically have great seasons. But when you try to make a play call and you don't run the football and you want to throw a fade route to somebody, I just don't think you should be throwing it to at that stage of the game. Like, bad things happen. So yes, it is frustrating to watch Aaron Roderick finally, in my opinion, cause his team to lose. I think the play calling is ultimately what led to this situation we find BYU in now.
It's been a problem all season. The lack of details for BYU have been a problem. And the hard part, if you're a BYU fan, the hard part, if you're a Kansas fan, I know you're going to hate it. BYU dominated every metric in this game. If you just looked at the box score, you look at the team stats, like any stat you want to find, rushing the ball, passing the ball, defensively, you name it, BYU dominated that stat and lost. And it's because they have, and hell, you can go back to the Baylor game.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back to even SMU. Some of the play calls against Oak State were absolutely confounding, unbelievable. And now it comes back to get you. And I don't even care that I think it was Tasse was a target on that interception in the end zone. That's a horrendous throw. Run the football.
Yes.
You dominated this team on the ground. Why are you not running the football? I've never been able to understand why Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator at BYU, won't run the football. There are just stretches where he forgets that you have been absolutely road grading Kansas up front. Run the football and run it like it's your job. Run it like you don't have a pass play on the sheet this week. Run the football, because I got news for you. Anybody that thinks this is just a blip on the radar has not been watching BYU football this year. And I can point to Kansas State again. I will just say it with K-State. I don't know how many times I have to bring this up. You are not built at Kansas State to come from behind. And I know that K-State fan has routinely been in the comment section calling me an asshole. You're just biased. You hate up. Like, hey, let it sink in. Why would I hate Kansas State? I have no reason to hate Kansas State. It's what I say about Dave Aranda at Baylor. Congratulations, Baylor fan. Welcome to continued mediocrity. You extended Dave Aranda. Huge mistake for Baylor. Huge mistake. You are looking at a league that does not sell out to win every game. That's the reality of it. And if you're a BYU fan this morning, if you're a K-State fan this morning, if you are a Baylor fan this morning, if you are a Baylor fan and you are not disappointed that Dave Aranda was extended, I don't know what you're looking at. This conference will get one team in the college football playoff. That's it. This was the wrong time to lose against the wrong team for BYU. And now you watch, and I know BYU fan tried to crawl up orifices last week when I said that Colorado was the best team in this league. Is there any question that was a true statement?
No, I don't think there's any question about it. I think, you look at Colorado's performance and yeah, little bit surprised with some of the turnovers, some of the struggles by Colorado against that Utah team. It was definitely in question for a little longer than I expected it to be, but then you pulled away and you put them away. And I think that's the part with Colorado that I think most college football fans don't want to talk about. Deion has talent. Deion's faster than you. Deion can beat your DB one-on-one. Deion's got a quarterback that can outthrow your safety. They're even at a point. I actually, and I'm not saying they ran it prolifically against Utah or anything, but there were moments in that game where I was like, wow, that's actually a really good turn around, hand it off, and beat them at the line of scrimmage for 5 yards play. Like, you're starting to see some development in the running game by Colorado. It no longer is it the case that Shedeur just has to run around for 100% of the game. Now, is it still 80-85% of the game? Yeah, it is. It is. But at least they're improving. And it's tough because I look at the Big 12 and yeah, it's not like no disrespect to Colorado. It's not good for your league that Colorado is the best team in your league right now.
No,
that's not good. That's bad news. And that's why your point about Dave Aranda and any of these other coaches, Neil Brown, Joey, Sonny Dykes, whoever you want to point to, these coaches and these programs have to improve and get better fast, man.
Yeah, and I look at how I would project the teams. I think that you look at the ACC. I don't know what you say to ACC fans this morning because you're not getting two in. That's I think one of the biggest issues with the ACC is I don't think people believe in SMU. And I think when you start looking at this league, SMU is 6-0 in the conference. And their only losses to BYU, by the way. But you look at Clemson and Miami, everything else, that's a junk heap in the ACC beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And now you start looking at Clemson. Clemson struggled against a pretty Garbo Pitt team this weekend. And you look at that is absolutely damaging to the ACC that you struggled at Pitt, and it took you a big fight to beat Pitt. That's a problem for Clemson. And I start looking at Miami. I think gets in. I think Miami's the best team in that league. I have no doubt about that. But where is SMU? SMU, your undefeated team. I think they are probably 14, 15, 16 tomorrow night when the college football playoff projection comes out. I think you're probably 14, 15, 16. And again, at this point, you're likely playing for the conference championship. If SMU loses the ACC championship game to Miami, let's say, what is that? How do you put SMU in? Because are you putting SMU in over Boise? Absolutely not. I think Boise is whether they win the Mountain West championship or not. I think they're probably in at this point.
Mm-hmm.
9-1, their losses to Oregon, and obviously they struggled this weekend for a moment as well, but pulled away, pounded San Jose State. I think they're in. Tennessee loses. Tennessee loses, right? And they're still, if you look at the AP poll, not that the AP poll has a lot of credence or credibility, in my opinion, but I think we all know that based on what we've seen, the AP poll is pretty accurate when it comes to the college football playoff. They're
right.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Anybody notice Tennessee's a top 10 team? A 2-loss Tennessee team's a top 10 team. Where's BYU? Oh, that's right. They're 14th because they lost a game. BYU loses one time and they drop 7 spots. 7 spots. Tennessee loses and they drop 4 spots. This is the message I'm trying to send to you guys. The ACC and the Big 12 get zero respect. And Again, I just point to you here: Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. Indiana with one of the worst strength of schedules.
Right.
In the entire, I think they're 103rd in strength of schedule or something like that. Strength of schedule. Indiana is 10-0, and they're 5th in the country. BYU loses one game, and they're out of the top 12.
Yeah, and I think that's that's the old saying of perception is reality. I think I think there's not a better example of this than SMU. I mean, if we think about SMU's storyline to get to the point where they are right here today, I mean, you're talking about a team who got into the ACC by saying we won't take revenue, we won't take TV revenue for, I think it was like 9 years or whatever they agreed to, and you're in a place where that initially looked really bad for the ACC. If you remember, we had all those conversations. And the point I'm making is it looks even worse now that they're sitting on top of your, conference, undefeated in conference play.
Yeah.
And I think so when you talk about, hey, like the Big 12 and the ACC don't get respect. Why should they get respect? Why, like, with all due respect to BYU's never been here before. Nobody believes that BYU would beat Tennessee, with all due respect. Nobody believes that BYU would beat. I
think that's right.
I would even go as far as to say I don't think most people believe that BYU would beat Indiana because they don't watch BYU. Now we know, and that BYU is probably a better team than Indiana. BYU's got an explosive offense, defense can hang like that. That would be a pretty close game, I think. But when we talk about reputation and falling 7 spots because you lost your first game 9 weeks into the season. That's the problem.
Yeah, and then you start looking at Indiana at 5 there, and you start saying to yourself, okay, well, Indiana's legit. Then how are you 12.5-point dogs going to the shoe? Saturday, big noon kickoff. You're 12.5-point dogs? Well, I mean, there's no way, Marty. How can they be 12.5-point dogs? They beat Charlotte and Maryland and Northwestern.
I'm for real.
What is it in... Maybe this is just me being a red ass. What is Indiana's quality win? FIU, directional Illinois, Western Illinois, at UCLA, is that a quality win? Of the 3 and 5 in the conference, 4 and 6. Charlotte, Maryland, at Northwestern, who's 2 and 5 and 4 and 6. Nebraska, who all of a sudden isn't everybody's All-American anymore. They're 2 and 5 and a 500 football team. Washington, games at Indiana. Washington's 4 and 4 and 6 and 5. So is Washington a quality win?
I'm not buying that. No, to me, they're not. No.
Michigan State,
no.
2 and 5, 4 and 6 in the conference.
No, you can't say that's a quality win.
And you struggled against Michigan, who I think by any measure is a pretty crappy football team. Michigan at 5 and 5.
But this goes back to the soccer writer point, right?
It does.
Does the soccer writer think that Michigan's a quality win because it's Michigan?
No, they don't.
Or does soccer writer?
Actually, they do think it's a quality win.
They do. The soccer writer who votes in the AP, who has Indiana at 5th in the country somehow, is saying, oh, well, it's Michigan. That's a quality win. They grinded that thing out. What a win. And it's like, no, dude, Michigan's actually terrible this year. And it just perpetuates the idea that you've played nobody. And again, and this is the real, to me, the real core of the conversation. If Indiana loses by 21 points to Ohio State, let's say, if they just get blown out of the water, are they going to fall 7 spots with their first loss of the season? No.
If Ohio State plays Oregon in the Big Ten championship game and Oregon wins again, do we believe that Ohio State's out of the college football playoff? Not a chance. I don't believe that at all. Ohio State's in. Oregon's in. No matter what happens, excuse me.
Yeah.
Both of those teams are in. BYU lost 1 game. Ohio State lost 1 game. And let's say Ohio State loses to Oregon. Neutral field. Let's say that BYU runs the table these last 2 weeks, which I think is a really big ask going to Arizona State. But let's say they go to the Big 12 championship game against Colorado and lose. They're a 2-loss team. Is BYU getting in? Not a chance in the world.
Nope.
No chance. Not a single chance. If Arizona State beats BYU and loses in the conference championship game, is Arizona State getting in?
No.
Not a chance. And again, let's play the game. Who's going to right now, if you look at the ACC and you say to yourself, okay, Clemson and SMU. SMU goes undefeated, let's say. SMU would be beating at Virginia and versus Cal, which I think they're probably going to win those two games.
Right. Yeah.
Let's say they finish 8-0 in the conference. They lose to Clemson. Is SMU getting in? No. Clemson wins the ACC championship game. They're getting in. But SMU is not.
Yeah, because then SMU would be a 2-loss team.
And let's say that Miami, who is 5-1, runs the table and beats Wake and Syracuse. And Clemson somehow loses to the Citadel or South Carolina. I think actually South Carolina is probably going to beat Clemson, but that's just today, in my opinion. Let's say Clemson loses one of those games, and it's SMU and Miami in the championship game. Who here believes that the ACC gets 2 in?
But I don't think anyone does. I just don't think they have a path, and this is the problem. This is where again,
how would you
when Big 12 fan or ACC fan gets all upset in the comments section, like how can you justify getting 2 in when you really don't play anybody, number one? And BYU's strength of schedule is actually really good, but the problem is that nobody respects Baylor. That's why it's such a problem to extend him. Nobody is respecting Texas Tech or K-State really, and I know K-State I still think is 25th in the country right now, but it's not like K-State is viewed as some juggernaut, right? Like, and that's the problem for BYU. BYU's not viewed as some juggernaut. BYU was viewed as a nice Cinderella story. You're undefeated, and that's cool and everything. But when does the slipper fall off, if you will? When does the story come to an end? And now it has.
You guys understand that BYU's strength of record is 8th in the country.
Yeah, like they've played people.
And they're out of the college football playoff today. Their strength of schedule, their strength of record, rather, which is not strength of schedule, strength of record. And I want to read to you the reason I bring this up. Strength of record reflects the chance that an average top 25 team would have a team's record or better given the schedule. So they're 8th in the country in strength of record, and I think they're 14th. Good luck. You're not like, how do you
There's
get in?
There's only one path.
You got to win the conference championship.
That's it.
And then you start looking at the ACC. Who's 9th in strength of record? Well, that'd be Miami.
But what's the difference between BYU and Miami?
Miami's got a reputation.
Yep, and people want them in.
And where's SMU? 14th in strength of record. Yeah. And they're in the top 12. No, they're not. They're not. And they won't be. Tomorrow night, they won't be. This is the problem. And so I want to play this Kirby Smart bite because I think this is a really good point. Kirby Smart talked about do we have the Kirby Smart bite?
Yeah, it's a screenshot of
it's
the
a
quote.
I sent you the bite. Anyway, I'm going to show you this. Kirby Smart says, I don't know because what the college football playoff committee is looking at. I don't know because I don't know what they look for. I really don't know what they look for anymore. So I would welcome anyone in that committee to come down to this league and play in this environment. It's a tough place to play. When you have that's Kirby Smart, the head coach at Georgia, saying, I have no idea what they're looking at. I have no idea what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think BYU thinks today? What do you think an undefeated SMU team thinks today? And this is why I go back to credibility and the fact that I truly believe that we're probably going to get 8 SEC and Big Ten teams in. I think that's the case. I don't know how else, because you're going to get the 9th team is going to be the ACC champ. The 10th team will be the Big 12 champ, right? And I think you're getting as at least 8 of those 2 conference teams in, and you could get 9, because again, I just look at the CFP rankings, and obviously this was before this week. This is last week's CFP rankings. Go ahead and take BYU out of there. Tennessee's going to be in the top 12. Notre Dame is going to beat Army, I would think, although it's Marcus Freeman, so who knows.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at this, man, I'm telling you now, you're going to get 8 teams from the Big 10 and the SEC in. 9, 10 for the ACC and the Big 12 champion. The G5 is 11 and Notre Dame's 12.
Mm-hmm.
How
simple.
Tell me I'm wrong. Sell me on how I am wrong on that, because I would love to be wrong about that. But I think looking at this and knowing that BYU is now probably going to be 13, 14, 15, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's a terrible loss for the Big 12, because your only road to getting 2 teams in,
it's over.
It's over.
It's done.
So I don't even.
And I think the hard part is that it just is this situation where you have to have an undefeated team in your conference. Like, you have to have a team that runs the whole slate and goes on to win the conference championship.
I agree.
And then you have, and really what we should be saying is you need 2 undefeated, so that way your conference champion's undefeated, and then you have a 1-loss team. That's how the Big 12 and the ACC get 2 teams in, because it goes without saying, and this is the harsh reality, it goes without saying, you're never getting 4 in. You're never going to be in the spot that the Big 10 and the SEC are in. And that's just the reality of the situation. But ultimately, again, it goes back to this point of, like, you look in the ACC, all those bottom feeders in the ACC, it's not good enough just to be a basketball school anymore. It's not good enough just to be like, oh yeah, hey, we're in the tournament every year. And yeah, Duke football is just kind of like, we play football, but it's not of consequence, like UNC, right? Like, these basketball schools, Virginia, like, you're not football schools. You're not good in football, and it's killing your conference.
And do you guys understand the strength of schedule? 7 of the top 8 teams are SEC teams. You know who that other team is that's not 8 of 8? It's Purdue, the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going to get in. And it sucks. It sucks because if you look at the ACC, Florida State, whose strength of record, what would other teams on par with you do?
Mm-hmm.
Is 108th. 108th. And their strength of schedule is 9th, which tells me you're not a good football team. Because other teams ranked at the top would do much better than you against that same schedule. It's rough, dude. And you start looking at, how do you fix this? Well, you fire Dave Aranda at Baylor. You hold Joey McGuire accountable. You make a change at Oklahoma State. If you're the Big 12, that's the only way this happens. And I truly don't know that it will. Clearly it won't at Baylor.
No.
But I think, and the thing that really scares me as somebody that covers the Big 12 regularly, I think this is a doomsday scenario. Because it's just rewriting the narrative. Oh, this isn't deep league. This isn't a good football. This is a basketball league. Yeah, anybody want to tell me how dumb I am for saying that basketball is critically important anymore? Because you're getting 1 team in the college football playoff. Everybody else is going to the Jimmy's Fat Ass Chili Bowl.
Right.
And my point is, you better win basketball games. You better put half the league in the tournament.
No, and that's the conversation we had after last year's tournament, right? Like, you had a lot of teams get in, but nobody had a good run. You had a ton of one and dones. And that's, again, the issue. This is why I keep saying, like, all the Big 12 homers out there, like, this is an entertaining conference to watch, but the reality is you don't make enough money. That's the problem. You're not generating enough revenue.
And now Miami and BYU are in the same spot. And should it surprise anybody that they're 53rd and 54th in strength of schedule? And their remaining strength of schedule is much better than, I think BYU's remaining strength of schedule is 33rd. So they don't have an easy path to go. Like, the numbers don't add up. I don't know how I don't know how you win this. And I don't know, like, one of the other things that is very interesting to me is your win probability in games BYU is 19th in win probability during games. 19th. That's not a good number.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a way to win it.
There's not.
There's not. You're not winning anything. Like,
you're not controlling games. You're not.
Like, you're. And the problem is that like, what you're not going to get over if you're in the Big 12 and in the ACC is the fact that the SEC and the Big 10 have been doing this for like 10 years now. They've been dominating the college football playoff conversation for almost a decade now, and you haven't been. And I understand that Dabo's got a couple of natties, and that's all fine and dandy, but how long has it been
what
since
does that
Clemson,
mean?
Yeah, has really even been relevant in the conversation? That's the issue.
Can you imagine if SMU and Miami play in the ACC championship game? And I think Miami's got a real dogfight on their hands against Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be very different. That Syracuse team, what are they, 4th in the league? Yeah, 7-3, 4-3 in the ACC. That you're going to have a real dogfight. You're going to have and again, I just look at Clemson with the Citadel this week. And this is Mercer for Alabama. It's not the worst tactic in the world to have the Citadel this week. But you better be ready to play South Carolina. If you're Clemson and you sputter or lose to South Carolina, good night. Enjoy your bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations on being, 9-2 at that point. And if you lose, you're 9-3. Congratulations, you're going to a bowl game. Not the one you want, the one you deserve for scheduling the Citadel. That's the real truth of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. What do you think happens in the SEC? I have to believe that if Miami runs the table, I think they clinch a conference championship spot. But I think it's going to be SMU and Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the two teams in the ACC. I think, Clemson, with all due respect to Cade Klubnik and that offense, like, you're just not explosive. You're applauding, throw a bunch of out route type offense, and that's not going to get it done against Miami and SMU. And, to me, I again, people want Miami in the college football playoff. Like, you need to understand that people want the Heisman conversation to continue to progress as we go through the college football playoff schedule. Yep. They want it to be a thing where it's like, hey, well, if Cam Ward can lead his team to victory, he probably secures the Heisman at some point, or whoever, Ginty or whoever you want to look at, right? Like, that's what people want. And so what happens in the ACC? Yeah, I think it's Miami and it's SMU, and I think Miami's going to win that league and go on into the CFP as a conference champion. Now, do you get, depending on where you're ranked as a conference champion, are you able to get ranked high enough to have a bye? Probably not. I mean, that's gonna be kind of a Herculean effort, honestly. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing here, if you're Miami and I guess Colorado at this point, you need to win one college football playoff game. That's what has to happen at a minimum. You can't have, well, we won our conference and nice job, Jimmy. You got to the playoff, but you got smoked in the college football playoff. You can't have that for your conferences. That doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that. I can't believe SMU goes to Charlottesville and loses. I mean, I could be wrong, but Virginia's not a good football team. So I would think they're in no matter what, because for those of you who don't know, if they beat Virginia this weekend, they're in the ACC championship game. So I have to think that they're going to get in. And then I think it's cloudier. The tiebreakers, I was just looking at the tiebreakers. The number one tiebreakers head-to-head, but Miami and Clemson didn't play. Win percentage against common conference opponents. Miami has to beat Wake Forest because Clemson, their common opponent is Wake Forest, because they both beat Florida State and Louisville beat Clemson. So I think that pretty much if Miami runs the table, they have a really good chance to get in. So that game at Syracuse, though, and this is what I said about Kansas all year. Like that game against Syracuse is going to be a ball buster. Kansas is having a terrible year. Well, guess what? They just wrecked BYU's season.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to like it's a juvenile take to a lot of people have been saying about Kansas. Oh, well, terrible year. They're a terrible team. BYU's going to blow them out. Do you understand that Kansas has been playing really good football coming into the BYU game? Like they've been running it better, been playing better defense. Like by their standard, they've been playing better. Like at some point we have to be able to say like ASU this week for BYU. Like, are we supposed to be?
Thank you.
Are we supposed to be confident that you're going to go down to that concrete palace and win a ball game? Like, if you think Kenny Dillingham's not out here looking to put a dagger in your season, you're out of your mind, bro.
I think if Arizona State wins that game, it's very difficult for BYU to get to the conference championship.
Yeah,
I just that's going to be very difficult. All right, less of us, more of you. Let's get your thoughts on the probability of the college football playoff. As always, the comment section presented by our friends at Prize Picks. I'm fading on Prize Picks, and I need to turn it around. I need to pick my game up. I need to step my game up. 0 for 5 over the weekend.
Damn.
I said 0 for 5. You guys understand a month ago I had over $1,000 in my Prize Picks account? I'm down to $518.45. This has been a cold streak. I mean, only rivaled by your sex life.
Right.
Like that's it.
Less than 21 times a month.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that all happened with the sex machine going off last night and Devin Booker going off against Minnesota. How did Minnesota win that game? That I don't understand. My boys are putting out like it's their job. Devin Booker on a 32.5 point rebound and assist numbers. The motherfucker got me 44 points alone. 52 total. You boys got this one, right? I've got Book. I've got Hey Bear. And then I'm just sitting here saying to myself, okay, well, listen, man. It is the Utah Jazz. Why on earth would you go against John Collins? He'll get you 17.5 points.
Another nice win by the Jazz last night, guys. Did their job, huh?
John Collins got me 13. $5 win. Thanks, John. Thank you. I did. That is as close as I got to a win this weekend. And I just would like to say, I know that I am perfect in everybody's mindset. And being this attractive, I understand your wife thinks I'm hot. But are you ready to give it up for my guy, Justin Herbert? At some level, at some point. When are we going to start putting Justin Herbert in the MVP candidate?
When he plays for a different head coach.
297 last night, 2 touchdowns, and 65 yards rushing. Oh, Patrick Mahomes is a god. Oh, man. No, those are Justin Herbert's numbers. Crown him. Justin Herbert belongs in the MVP conversation. And I understand it is LA. We should be playing in San Diego. They're 7-3 now. Do you guys understand the LA Chargers are 7-3? Tried to give that one away last night. Well, I should say Jesse Minter's defense tried to give that one away last. You might want to cover some bros. And listen, I would not have blonde tips like Joe Burrow does. I mean, they'd look good on me, but I would not personally lower myself to that level of disgust as the Bears highlights play in the background. I would not lower my level of disgust to that, blonde tipping.
Right.
But Justin Herbert won that game for the Chargers. They're 7-3, and he belongs. He belongs in the conversation. And Texans and Cowboys tonight, how much are we putting on the Texans defense?
Lots.
A lot. Prize Picks tonight, I'd highly recommend that we all go NBA because Suns and Magic tonight, that game's in the Valley of the Sun. I think there's some easy wins there. Knicks and Wizards tonight. I think there's some easy wins there. And then if you're not taking De'Aaron Fox on the over tonight, if there's nobody hotter than De'Aaron Fox in the NBA.
Absolutely cooking.
Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, Monty. You get, open up a new Prize Picks account. Deposit $5. $5. You get 50 more instantly. It is, and I've played on that all season long. And I was all the way up to I think my best was $1,180 something. And now, of course, I'm playing Jake, so I've tanked. But I'm turning it around tonight.
Yes.
I am turning it around tonight. Who am I? Caleb Williams? You're damn right.
Yeah.
Turning it around tonight.
Yeah.
Let's hope I don't do because he played well and they lost. And Cairo Santos,
Cairo Santos.
Don't even talk to me about it. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. We're going to start doing after the Thanksgiving holiday here. We're going to start doing some Prize Picks contests. So open a new account at Prize Picks. Download the app. Open a new account. Deposit $5, and you'll get $50 instantly. All right, let's creep into the comment section,
right?
Because I am all but certain there's going to be some heat this morning.